things are about to get strange. Because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we just got the first official trailer for Stranger Things Season 4. Finally, we are getting Season 4 this year in 2022. It's been 3 years since Season 3 all the way back in 2019, but now Season 4 is finally coming our way in two parts. Part 1 is coming on May 27th, and then Part 2 will be coming this July. And so we just got this first official trailer where we've seen so far just like little clips and teasers and featurettes and all that kind of stuff. But this is the first full official trailer for this season. And there's a lot going on here because I was excited I wasn't really excited for it because it was like, I love the show, but I wasn't really super anticipating the season, mostly just because it's been so long and I've kind of lost interest a bit. But after this trailer, I am just so insanely hyped for this series, and may even watch it instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi, because that's another big thing with this release of Volume 1 or Part 1 of Stranger Things Season 4 is that it comes out on May 27th, the same day as the premiere of the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series on Disney Plus. So we'll see how that goes, and you'll have to decide which to watch first. I mean, it makes more sense to watch Obi-Wan first because that's just one episode. But Stranger Things Season 4 is going to be awesome because it's the biggest season yet. Literally every episode is going to be over an hour according to the Duffer Brothers, and again, it's in two parts. It's that big. And so without further ado, guys, let's go and jump into and break down this trailer because there is a lot to be talked about. And of course you can let me know your own theories and point out different parts of the trailer in the comments below as well. But now let's jump into this. So we start off with basically kind of catching up on what happened last season a little bit, or at least seeing the aftermath of that. This is the aftermath of the big explosion underneath the Starcourt Mall and dealing with the Russians and everything. But then we see this grandfather clock, which has been teased as a huge key and pivotal part of this season that we still don't really know what it is or what its importance is, but it's a part of Creel House. Now, Creel House is going to have another pivotal part to play in Season 4 as well. So this clock is inside Creel House. And then we get a cool flash of somebody's creepy eyes. Now, I believe we see the full look at this person at the end of the trailer. But we get this right here. So we have Max. She is visiting her brother's grave. Of course, Billy, who died last season. And so she's, paying her respects, mourning her brother and everything. And so we get some great shots here. Seems like actually based off this trailer, Max is going to be taking on a much larger role this season, which honestly I love because I love the character and we haven't really had, she's been kind of a smaller character in the first couple seasons. So I like to see that she's taking on a bigger role now. Then we get a cool shot. I don't think it's really an important shot at all, but I just like that it's upside down because the upside down, so that's cool. But we have our characters here. We got Steve, we got Dustin, and was her name Robin? I feel like her name was Robin, who worked at Scoops Ahoy with Steve, Uma Thurman's daughter. But we got a nice role reversal here. So, of course, Steve used to be popular, but he ditched popularity to come hang out with basically the losers. But it seems like the opposite has happened with Lucas, where he used to be a loser, and now seems like he's going off to play basketball, and he's possibly become popular, which, good for him, but clearly his friends are they're there to support him, but are just not into it, because as Max says at this point in the trailer, they're trying to move on and try and go back to having, quote, normal lives, but that's not something that's really possible now. Because, of course, our friends are separated. We have Eleven and Will have, moved away, so they're in California now. And then a really interesting part here with Max is that she is inside the school, and that clock is inside the school. Now, I'm assuming it's a different clock. It looks a little different. But still, how did this get here? What is this doing here? Why is it in the school? And how has Max found it? Why does she specifically have a connection to this clock? Now, I have a theory about that and who's behind this all. that I'll talk about more later. Um, but we do move over to Russia, where of course Hopper is still there. That was one of the first big teasers for the season. Is that like, hey, Hopper's alive. He's in Russia. He's like pretty much bald now, so that kind of sucks. But we're also going to a cool disco, roller skating party or something like that. We got 11 and Mike, going on a nice disco date with Will in the background is just a awkward third wheel. I've been there. But we also have Joyce, who, of course, is going to be playing a big role in the whole Hopper storyline and kind of doing the whole rescue mission because she gets some sort of package in the mail with a bunch of stamps on it. Now, I don't know Russian, but I'm assuming these are Russian stamps. So I'm not sure if Hopper's the one that's sending this and like how he would actually be able to from within prison. But we saw in one of the other teasers that she was sent a Russian nesting doll, so that could be what's inside this package. But I feel like he's just gonna be sending her different like messages and clues to try and like hint to her like, hey, I'm alive, I'm stuck in Russia, come save me. And so then we got Will in the background there again. There's Mike. There's Jonathan sporting a new look, a new hairdo. Seems like his life is just falling apart. We saw in the last trailer he was smoking. Uh, and then our crew is heading to the Creel house, which, I mean, just looking at that house, that is clearly not a good idea. But again, this is going to be a central focal point of this season. So they're all walking in there to investigate. They got their flashlights and everything. And things are getting weird. Now, I'm not sure how this is exactly connected to the clock, but I am pretty sure that somewhere within Creel House, this is going to have some sort of portal to the Upside Down. I feel like our characters are going to be going to the Upside Down in this season because that's actually what it looks like at the end of this trailer. So they've all banded together and are circled around something, which I'm assuming is probably the clock, but also the light. I don't really know for sure. But then we've got an interesting shot of 11 where she is in some sort of van. She looks super sad and depressed and she's looking out the back. And it seems like there's like a cage or like some sort of, cell wall on the back of that van. And you can see who I believe is Mike in the background. So maybe she's been taken away. Which connects to later in the trailer where we see that these like government guys have cornered her and hunted her down to this cafe, and they're telling her about how like there's this war in Hawkins, your friends are in trouble, and you're the only one that can win us this war. But she says, I don't have my powers. So that's interesting. I don't remember if that's something that was actually, yeah. I do remember now, yeah, she doesn't have her powers. But I'm assuming she's going to get her powers back. Or maybe somebody else gets her powers instead, like Max, as we'll see a little bit later here in the trailer this summer. Oh, yeah. And then we have Creel House, but from the Upside Down, which, honestly, it looks scary in real life, but I love the red lightning and, like, just that whole red color effect for the Upside Down. Another really interesting thing here is we have Steve and, what is her name? I always forget her name. But anyway, seems like they are, I don't know if they're friends now. Obviously they used to date before she got with Jonathan, but now that he's moved away, are things not going on there anymore? Are she and Steve getting back together? Or are they just friends and it's just showing how cool Steve is that, like, he can just be friends with her, and that's pretty cool as well. But then we have our kids are riding their bikes, of course, a classic for this show, towards the red lightning. Now, this kind of looks like the Upside Down. It might not be. It might be regular, like, real life, and they're heading towards the Upside Down. But then we've got Hopper again. Seems like this is when maybe he first arrives at the prison because he's looking a little thicker here. I'm assuming that like as time goes on he gets skinnier because they're like starving him, or maybe he's building more muscle or something because of the work they're putting him through, but they put this gas mask on him and then release him into this prison yard with a bunch of other prisoners. He gets this crazy weapon, this cool spear that's set on fire. and he's just looking all fierce and tough here like a complete badass. And then a Demogorgon is released. So that was something that was teased in that post-credit scene of season 3, is that they have Demogorgons just held captive in Russia. So I'm not sure exactly what this is, if it's supposed to be like some sort of like gladiator fight or something like this, where you literally just have all these random prisoners in this room or like selected area, and then a Demogorgon is just released out there and they have to either kill or be killed. So that would be pretty interesting there. Then we've got this guy who I have no idea who he is, but seems like he is hosting some sort of Dungeons and Dragons, I'm assuming game. And he's like the I don't know the professional term of it, but he's hosting the game. And I have no idea who he is, but of course, big elements of the show are taken from Dungeons and Dragons, like the Demogorgons and the Mind Flayer and all those characters. So that's pretty cool. But then we have 11, or at least who I assume is 11. It looks a little different. Doesn't look like Millie Bobby Brown. Might be a different actress. But anyway, it is a child in the Rainbow Room, back at Hawkins Labs. And this is, I'm assuming, a flashback. And you can see blood all over her gown and through her eyes. So I'm assuming this is 11, possibly when she's first discovering her powers, doesn't know how to control them yet. We've got Erica, of course, Lucas's sister, so nice to see that she's coming back as well. Now, this is what I was talking about here with Max having powers, because all of a sudden she's floating. Now, this goes back to the beginning of the trailer when we saw her at her brother's grave. Now, of course, that said Billy Hargrove, but if you look really closely here, it now says William Hargrove. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. It might just be like an editing mistake, or maybe some sort of magic supernatural thing is going on there. Maybe Billy isn't dead, or maybe she does have superpowers and somehow changed it. I really have no idea how exactly that can be explained, but I mean, she's floating. So if 11 doesn't have her powers now, maybe it's actually Max that now does have powers, and that's somehow due to her brother having that connection with the Upside Down and him dying, possibly those powers being passed on to her. I don't exactly know, but either way, cool to see that Max is taking on a bigger role this season. And then we've got the government doing some crazy stuff there. Another flashback with 11, having no idea how to use her powers yet. This, I believe, might be the D&D guy again, but he's just like jamming out here. Which, by the way, the song for this trailer was perfect. I love that song. So that was great. We have then Robert Englund, who, of course, played Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So that's been a big thing that people have been looking forward to in the season, is seeing his character and what kind of role he plays, because he is Creole, like the original Creole. And basically the story behind that is that it's thought that he murdered his family, and he murdered his whole family. But I have a feeling it's going to be some sort of twist of like he didn't actually do it, and maybe it was something connected to the Upside Down, but he's just been framed, so he's been in a mental institution his whole life, even though he didn't even do it. But something is messed up with his eyes. I'm not sure if like he gouged them out himself, or if that's some effect from the Upside Down, or if his eyes are just like super old and like crusty. Like, I don't know, it's gross either way. But something really cool here is we have like this old-fashioned plane being flown by Joyce and Murray. Now I have a feeling that this is probably after she gets all those clues and finds out that, hey, Hopper's alive and he's in Russia, that they're going to go after them, and it's going to be a rescue mission, which honestly is going to be pretty cool. Then we've got Lucas is just like super duper scared here. Seems like this is in Creel House. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Maybe it's the clock. Maybe it's a cuckoo clock and that scares him or something. I don't know. But then we've got Steve and some other characters here as well. I believe that's Robin. Then a really, really interesting part here is this is Max. This is Max right here in the Upside Down. seems like she's flying right now. So again, lending to the idea that she has powers, but she is going towards this giant portal. Now, I don't know who that is in the portal. Looks like somebody's floating up there. Is that maybe 11? Is that this guy that we see at the end of the trailer? I don't exactly know, but somehow I think that our characters are going to end up in the Upside Down. I feel like there's going to be some sort of portal in Creel House, possibly connected to that clock, that will bring them here. But then we see again, Max is right there in front of the portal when all of a sudden this creepy ass hand appears right here. And then we get to see the body, the embodiment, and the voice behind the Upside Down. Because this whole time, like, we've had Demogorgons, we had the Mind Flayer, but now we have the actual persona of the Upside Down. This one that's kind of been pulling the strings from behind the scenes this whole time. This thing just looks absolutely terrifying and disgusting, and I absolutely love it. But this is where my theory comes into play, because since this came out, a lot of people have been theorizing that this could be a character that we've seen in the past. Instead of being just some random creature that we have no attachment to, what if this is a person that has died in a previous season, or at least we thought died, but is actually now become kind of like the king or queen of the Upside Down. Now, first of all, I've seen some jokes online. They're like, "Oh, it's Barb. They're bringing back Barb, and she never died. She's the ruler of the Upside Down." And honestly, that would be hilarious. But my two biggest theories, one is that the doctor guy that first was with 11, that she called Papa and all that stuff, that maybe he didn't die in season 1. We know he's come back in this season for at least flashbacks, maybe possibly present day stuff. So that could possibly be him, especially since he worked at Hawkins' lab and he kind of had the connections to the Upside Down. I'd say the more prevalent theory that makes just so much more sense is that this is Billy, because of course Billy died at the end of season 3, kind of made that big sacrifice to save the day. And now maybe what if instead of being killed by the Mind Flayer, he actually was absorbed into it and became the embodiment of the Upside Down. Again, that would explain the huge connection to Max and why she is so prevalent about going after the Upside Down, going after this bad guy. So we'll see, but it's definitely an interesting prospect and would just make more sense story-wise, especially if that's a character that we already grew to know and love in previous seasons, but is now the villain, even though he kind of already was the villain, but like is now brutally deformed and messed up and everything. And this character is actually a character from D&D. The Duffer Brothers confirm that the big bad of Stranger Things Season 4, this character we just saw, is Archlich Vecna, who I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, but that's about all I can tell you. I did a little bit of research. He's like the god of secrets or something like that. So I don't know exactly how like accurately they're going to adapt that. But they will be at least doing a version of that character, which honestly I think is pretty cool. Because that thing looks absolutely terrifying. But guys, that was the first official trailer, most likely the only trailer for Stranger Things Season 4. It looks absolutely insane. Again, this is coming in 2 parts. Only on Netflix. Volume 1 will be May 27th, and Volume 2 will be on July 1st. So we have a lot to look forward this year, guys, with Stranger Things Season 4 finally returning after 3 years since Season 3. I'm quite excited for this. I'm really excited to see where things go, because there's still a lot unknown, and there's still so many questions that need to be answered after this trailer. But for now, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about this official trailer for Stranger Things Season 4? Let me know all your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep it up to date on everything goes on.